All right. So first of all, just some specifications on the Israel trip that nobody seemed interested in. It is not visiting the territories. It is only going to be in Israel. So it's pretty safe, relatively still. Yeah, they're going to the south, but I mean, it's pretty secured now. I mean, the whole northern Gaza is, flattened. So that shouldn't be, it should be relatively safe. I'm not going to encourage you because then it'll be my fault if you get killed. But so just wanted to make this precision, right? That it's only going to be still no one on the trip. No one. So this is a trip 2 weeks in June to Israel. And it's completely paid for. You only have to put like a deposit of $150 and that's it. So the flight is paid for. I don't know, I think Perspectives or something like that. It's organized by the Hillel. You know this? Yeah.
No, different thing. Not birthright. So
No, it's not Birthright. No, it's Ben. Yeah. Okay. It's Ben's trip, right? Yeah. No, that's you. The other Ben. Okay.
This is gonna be. I was at a wedding yesterday, and I look across during the ceremony. And who do I see approaching me? But Mishael. And he was like, "Oh, how do you know the group?" It turns out that we're not related. My great aunt was his babysitter.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cute. Okay. Very nice. Small world. Okay. All right, good. Let's get into your questions. Very nice questions as usual. There's someone who I couldn't figure out who you were. Tell me who you are. Is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cute. Okay. Davidov.
What's the first?
My first question is, what is Proverbs' stance on alcohol consumption? Yes, you. Yes, so you're right. I mean, it's in the context, especially of being a ruler, I think, right? The idea of, and also the context of the court where people would just get really drunk, right? So, in fact, he alludes to that, right? I think it's in Ecclesiastes, he alludes to what his court looked like when he says, woe to you, woe to the king whose princes are drunk in the morning, right? So that was kind of the state of his court. So when he's talking about alcohol, it's really against this kind of, like drinking from morning to night, especially when you're in a position of authority, you might not want to do that. So I don't think it applies to Purim and to all these holidays, right? Where wine is consumed. So you mentioned, so continuing with you. So you notice, right? Wisdom is feminine, but also folly, right? It's not just wisdom that is embodied by women, it's also folly. So let's talk about that. Why does he choose to kind of depict both wisdom and folly as womanly, as taking place in a woman's body? Yeah.
Two sides of the same coin.
Okay, right? You could have, so in a way, wisdom can also, and I'm sure he's experienced that. There's true wisdom and false wisdom, right? There are wisdoms that can lead you astray. And he perhaps experienced that in his explorations, right? So there are true wisdom, fake wisdom. We have this in Greek philosophy, just to go briefly to Plato, since this is Plato in the Bible class. We have the notion of the sophists, right, versus the true philosophers, right? So same idea there, that you have people who pose as philosophers, and then you have the real philosophers. So very similar thing. What else can we learn from this female figure being both wisdom and folly? We'll learn more today about the connection with a wife. And then we can maybe answer this question. So hold that thought. Okay, what did I write here? Solomon, can't read my writing. Oh, right, yeah. Obviously, yes, Solomon is talking about things that he has not himself practiced, right? Which is staying away from the foreign woman and so forth. Or you could say, from his experience, he understood that it's not a good. So remember, they're getting all these ideas, right, are coming from their experience. So he had to have tasted the foreign woman before he could say, "No, don't go there," right? So that's kind of part of the way that wisdom is wisdom is birthed, right? In the context of wisdom literature, you have this notion of it is through transgression, through experience, that we gather wisdom. So having done what he did, it's interesting that he would then say, actually makes it even more powerful, right? because he knows what he's talking about, right?
I'm not saying he's a hypocrite because Solomon himself didn't commit adultery. It's just that it's easier, like I'm implying that it might be easier for him to follow his advice because he's married to so many people and can marry anybody he wants to.
Oh, right. So in a sense, he's not committing adultery. Oh, that's what she said. Sorry. Yeah, that's good too. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, unlike his father David, right? So he, in a way, yeah, you're right. He doesn't fall into that, at least not what we have on record. I was just reading a page today in the Tractate Sanhedrin where they were talking about Solomon, whether he should have a place in the world to come because of all his sins. And he almost lost his place in the world to come. And then someone stepped up and said, but he built the temple, right? He built the temple. How can you put such a man, right, in hell or whatever? So it was interesting. So the rabbis also are a little uncomfortable with his lifestyle, right? Understandably, because it's the father's house versus the mother's house, right? Okay, good. Corcoran, you've missed a couple classes, right? Which is why you're asking the questions. You're asked. Okay, so I'll clarify for you. I'll clarify for you. So why you ask? It's a good question. You ask, why is wisdom in the creation? Why does Solomon put her right in the creation story? Why is she part of the creators? So if you watch the video, you will see that Solomon intentionally puts her there at the beginning because he wants to give her the traits of the goddess Maat, who is also the creation goddess, right? So in other words, the highest god of Egypt, Ra, it brings her along as he begins to create the world, right? So it's just to show the parallels between the goddess Ma'at and the Lady Wisdom here, right? So that's the main reason, at least I think, that King Solomon is putting her there. And then a few of you asked about, again, the fear of God. So again, right, this is not about being afraid, right? I want to be very clear. Who was it? It was Suresh and also you, right? This is about the one quote that I quoted, I think. So I did, we investigated this that's why I thought you missed that lecture, because we did talk. Do you remember when we talked about the very first introduction on Proverbs, where we did a whole section on listening? Do you remember that?
Oh, I do.
Yes. And so I gave you a passage, right? Proverbs 3. Okay, so intertextually, right? We can already see some elements where he's saying, trust God with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make straight. This is what it means to fear God. That's the definition, right? And I confirmed it with the text in Isaiah, right, where it says, who fears the Lord and obeys, right? So fearing has to do with, and obey is dual, right? Hearing and doing, right? It's the same thing. So to fear God is to be open, basically, to divine guidance. That's the main. If you read Isaiah and you see the way that he puts in parallel fear and obedience, basically that's the idea. It's not, oh, I'm scared, God will punish me or whatever. No, it's simply the recognition that there is a wisdom higher than my own, and that I need to acknowledge. So it can be done father's house, mother's house, right? Father's house, you keep the commandments. That's the way that you recognize that there is a higher voice, a higher intelligence than your own. Mother's house, it's more of a, being somehow being able to hear in the circumstances around you, or to hear the voice of God, not audibly, obviously, we're not in that context here, but the ability to sense the divine guidance, perhaps in one's heart or in the circumstances, right? That would be the mother's house way. But both is the notion of there is a higher authority than me, and I surrender to that authority. I don't trust my own understanding, right? That's what it means to fear God. Does that make sense? Right? So it's not about quaking before God, right? Remember, we're in the context, biblical context. There's not this notion that you have in other religions of hierarchy between God and his people. It's a partnership, right? So in other words, in other religions, you have this emphasis, God is up there and everybody's a slave, right? This is not what we have here. We do not have a slave master or master slave relationship. You have this in the ancient Sumerian literature. You have this in all of the other religions. But the two religions step out of that, Judaism and Christianity, where they emphasize, no, we are sons and daughters. That's the Christian. And the Hebrew, we are wives or husband, right? We are partners of God, right? So covenant, exactly. So in the context of the covenant, nobody's fearing anybody, right? It's an equal relationship where we are encouraged to speak our mind and to disagree, and sometimes to rebel. We saw this with Job, right? Job said everything he had to say, and there was no lightning to strike him down. On the contrary, God was like, okay, this is nice, let's talk. Right? So we have to remember that the Hebrew spirituality is not a spirituality where God, it's not a master slave reality. So you don't have this notion of blind submission that you have in other religions, right? You have a connection of father children, which is, you find this more in Christianity, but then especially here you have wife husband. That's really in the context of the Hebrew understanding of gender, right? It's an equal relationship, right? Okay, so does that answer the question of the fear here? Everybody a little more? Okay. Good. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, so Kaplan, so you're frustrated because wisdom you feel is playing God, right? So be careful. What? In a way, yeah. Remember, wisdom is God, right? In this text. I mean, and this is shocking because if wisdom is God, then God is acting in a way that is unusual. What is wisdom doing in the text towards humanity? That it would be shocking to think of God doing that. Tell me, what is she doing that is like, you're like, oh, God would do that? And it poses some, it's a bit, one might be hesitant. Well, what does she do? Where is she, first of all? Where do we find Lady Wisdom in the text? Geographically, what spaces is she in? What spaces does she inhabit? Yeah.
She's calling.
She's calling. And where is she? Calling from the throne room? Where is she? She's in the street, in the marketplace, right? And being very unprofessional and losing a lot of her poise, right? She's calling, begging, come to me. Now, if wisdom is God, what does it tell us about God? Clearly, he's making the connection, right? We saw that we have wisdom, Maat, God, right? God himself, the God of Israel, is also described here. So what does it say about God that wisdom is running around in the streets begging people to follow her? What new vision of God do we get here that's we're not used to? Yes, River.
No.
Oh, you just listen. Okay. Yes.
Well, that God's accessible everywhere and can be heard and found everywhere.
Okay, I like that. I like that. That's nice. God is in the marketplace, not just in the temple, right? Not just over here in sacred space. God is in profane space,
And
right?
whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to be, you're not only connecting just when you go to pray.
Nice,
or make
nice.
sacrifices and
I like that.
Whatever you may be doing at the moment, God is there.
Very nice. So in the ordinary tasks, right? Hasidic thought is going to go deep into that. The fact that ordinary tasks can be holy, right? So here you have you remember from the class, right? So we have this notion, right? God is not just confined to holy space. God can be found also in profane space. Is that yes? Go ahead. Is that a hand? No, you're just holding your pen. Okay, good. Anything else that it tells you about God that's shocking? About how God interacts with humanity? No one has, yeah.
Speaks the language that everybody speaks.
True. Still.
That the language is an ordinary speech.
Okay, very good. But this notion of God, kind of extending his hands, like, come to me. What's
Yeah, it's also like God is not talking down anymore. He's like kind of just like side by side with all. It's like I guess horizontal.
Yes, even more he's begging. Whoever thought God would beg, right? There's an element here of vulnerability, of God longing for us. So you know how the Greeks, going back finally a little bit of Plato, so Aristotle, for example, talks about, or the Greeks in general, talk about God as the first cause, right? Very abstract. The one that is desired but does not desire. This is a Greek definition of God. God is the one who everyone desires, but he himself, God forbid, desires. Here we have a very different, the Hebrew context gives us a very different vision of God, right? This is a God who is vulnerable, who longs for us, who has, desire for us. It flips the Greek definition, right? This is a God whose womb, this is the root of compassion, right? Rachamim comes from rechem, which is a womb. God who has a womb which twitches when when he sees one of his children in trouble, right? So this is a very different vision that you have, right? In general, when you have a sense, for example, in the Father's house where God is, kind of more holy and separate, and, God forbid you touch anything, right? You might get struck down with lightning. This is kind of the God we get a sense of when we read the 5 books of Moses. But here we have totally different vision, right? God in the marketplace, reaching out, begging, desiring, right? So that's, again, the shift from the holy to the profane we see here, right? Yes.
Like also like, but how do you know for sure that Solomon is trying to make wisdom equal God and not to be a part of God?
So yesterday, right, we looked at some of the last time we looked at the attributes, right? I'm just looking at the language. So when he describes, and we talked about this, when he describes Lady Wisdom as, they will call to me, but I will not answer. They will look for me, but will not find me. And you have the exact formulation. So this is it's a literary device. It's a device that biblical writers use. When they quote from another passage, they're making a connection. So from this, just reading literature, right? I'm looking, they're quoting from Isaiah, from Jeremiah, same, even though it's a little different because Lady Wisdom is more impatient. She's like, they'll call me, but I won't answer, the hell with them. And God is like, before they call, I will answer, right? Seek the Lord while he may be found. So it's slightly different, it's a twist, but it's the same grouping of words. So it's a literary device. When biblical writers do that and allude to another passage, they're making a connection. So that's where I'm deducing that King Solomon is giving to Lady Wisdom the traits of the God of Israel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's it. And
okay, yeah. So also at the same time, you're saying that wisdom is more impatient than God is in other areas, but also like she's like begging.
Yes, she's doing both. And God can be very impatient too, we've seen God get super angry and frustrated and so they're very similar, right? There is a clear intention to merge the two, or to identify the two, right? That's where I'm getting this. That's the clue, right? The text is giving me this clue. Good. Okay. So does that answer your question, Kaplan, a little bit? Yes, Epstein.
I disagree wholly with the fact that he's trying to make wisdom and God the same thing, because he clearly states that God created wisdom. That would seem to make it a separate entity entirely.
Yes, unless he's trying. So I see what you're saying, and that's good. Unless that section, when he talks about God creating wisdom, is meant to allude to Maat, who was herself created by Ra, right? In the same. So unless that passage is written in that way, so I see what you're saying. But for me, that passage, when it says that God engenders wisdom, for me was written in a way as to connect to the goddess Maat. You see what I mean? Who was herself engendered by her father. You see what I mean? So I agree that this is it poses a little bit, it makes you hesitate, right? But then you have these passages, right, where you have this identification.
The problem with those passages from Isaiah is that they're created after this. They should really be alluding to this, but they don't. They
That's a
take an
good point.
entirely different tack.
Yeah.
They take the opposite tack.
That's a good point. Okay, I'm point taken. I'm putting a star. Let me think about it. That's a good point. And especially since they seem to be going in the opposite direction, right? That's what you're saying. I like that. Okay. Good. Let me get back to you on that. Yes, that's a very, see, that was good. That was very good. He based he disagreed, based it entirely on the text, proved that my theory is a bit fragile. So I will need to study more and come back. Very good point. The later text also, that puts me in a difficult situation next time. I'll have to go through, think about this. Thank you.
Same things that, the creation is like saying, okay, before we had humans to occupy God, he had wisdom to play with and talk
with, yeah.
whatever, and interact with. And now that he's got all these humans to be concerned about, wisdom is not in the same exact place as wisdom was previously, but wisdom has a role to transmit learning and information to humans.
Got it. Good. Okay. Get back to you on that. Okay, good. Last one, Michelle. Can I read my writing? Seek me. early, seek me early. Yes, you're like, oh, why is he saying that? You know, what about old people? Can't they seek wisdom? So remember, he's almost talking to himself, right? A lot, you know, when we usually write for ourselves. Any writer that is writing, they're really preaching to themselves. So Solomon might be doing that, where he's saying, how I wish I would have sought wisdom early and not later in life. I would have led a different life, right? So perhaps this is it's an encourage, because it's not obvious. When you're young, you have no incentive to seek wisdom. Wisdom comes after you've tasted the bitterness of life and you're like, let me find a way out of this. But when you're young, what need do you have for wisdom, right? So that's where he's saying, especially now, when you feel there's no need for it, where you're just, everything seems open and possible, and that's when to seek it. So maybe he's emphasizing, right? Of course, when you're older, you can seek wisdom. So, okay, good. All right, let's get into the text. So today we're going to look, we're going to go continue this notion of wisdom as the embodiment or embodied by the feminine. So we saw, and I can at least still make this point after Epstein, catastrophic comment. I still make this point that wisdom is a woman and that she connects to the goddess Maat. And we talked a little bit last time why Solomon chooses to give a feminine garb to wisdom. And what did we say? Anybody remember? There were some interesting comments when we talked about last time a little bit at the end, when we talked about why does he choose to make wisdom feminine? Anybody remember what you said? Do you remember what you said? Yes.
Yeah, I wrote down, feminization of God opens us up to a different aspect of him.
Ah, okay.
Potentially speaks to the origins of Israelites born from Egyptian subjugation, or that's specifically referring to why the similarity with her and Maat. Potentially speaking to a religious audience, to a different religious audience, to somebody who's outside of the Israelite tradition. Just like in Egypt, the king of Israel needs wisdom. So it's
Okay, good.
because you need, just like you would need a wife, or a wife would need a partner, you need wisdom in the same way you would need a partner.
Good. So I like the first point. Let me go over that again, right? The feminization of wisdom and perhaps of God, which I still have to prove, right, is to show a different face of God, right? I'll go on that track for now, and then clarify the foundations of that next time. But this idea that, right, God is vulnerable, God is needy, God is calling to us, right, is an interesting vision of God, right, that we can have. So next, the second idea, which I'm going to go over today, is the notion of wisdom, not only embodied by the goddess, but embodied by the wife. So today we're going to talk about the spouse, right? We're going to go a little more into the wife as embodiment of wisdom. And in fact, our text makes several moves that identify Lady Wisdom with the wife. So let's go there and I'll show you three passages where they are identified. So this is interesting, right? One doesn't see, one hears about the wife in Proverbs, but he's actually identifying the wife with wisdom. So let's look at, first of all, Proverbs 3:15. So I'm going to rely on, well, I can go too. So let's go to Proverbs 3:15 and see what, somebody can read it. First person who gets it, just blurt it out. So talking about wisdom, what do we see here? Proverbs 3:15. Go ahead.
She is more precious than rubies, all of your can equal her.
Okay, good. Now let's look at Proverbs 8:11. We'll stay on the track of rubies. Proverbs 8.
For wisdom is better than rubies, no goods can equal her.
Okay, good. And now let's go to Proverbs 31:10. Oh,
What
what's
was
it?
the second one?
So 3:15.
Yes, 8:11. And then all the way to 31:10. Whoever has it, just blurt it out.
What was there find as occasional wife, or were this far beyond that of rubies?
Okay, so now all of a sudden, right, the rubies which were ascribed to wisdom, right? To have wisdom is to have these rubies. Now the same expression is used for the wife. So here you have first identification, right? There's two more, but this is the first clear identification. Yes? Okay, good. All right, second one. Let's look at Proverbs 4:9. Proverbs 4, chapter 4, verse 9. Whoever's there first, go ahead. 4:9. You got it? Yeah.
She will adorn your head with a graceful wreath, crown you with a glorious diadem.
Okay, now wisdom associated with a crown, right? Again, this notion of wisdom giving the person royalty, right? Same idea that you have throughout the ancient Near East, right? Lady Wisdom as the one giving the king authority. Now let's go to chapter 12, verse 4. So Proverbs 12, verse 4. And what do we have?
The verse before 12.
4:9. Okay, now we have 12, verse 4. Who has it?
The worthy woman is her husband's crown.
Okay, and now boom, the crown becomes, right, the spouse, right? So again, the identification here of the two. Last one. Proverbs 2:6. Proverbs chapter 2, verse 6.
For the Lord grants wisdom, knowledge, and discernment by his decree.
Okay, very good. And now Proverbs 19:14. So here wisdom is coming from God, right? That's the Proverbs 2:6. What do we have in Proverbs 19, verse 14? Yeah.
Properties and riches are bequeathed by the fathers, but his sufficient wife comes from the Lord.
Okay, right? Again, both are from the Lord. Wisdom is from the Lord, the wife is from the Lord, another moment of identification. Okay, so here we have something very powerful that is taking place, right? King Solomon basically is saying, yes, Lady Wisdom is the one who gives, authority to the king, who enables the king to rule justly, but the embodiment of this wisdom in the day-to-day life of Israelites is the wife. And she, in a way, is the one who gives her husband authority. She's the one behind his success in a way, right? She's the crown. She's the rubies. She's the one who, in a way, powers him through life, right? Okay, so very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about this, right? What does this tell you here? I guess this is great moment of marriage counseling. What can we learn? If I were giving you like a premarital talk, we have equal number, we have two ladies, the rest of you are men. What would this premarital talk look based on what you just read here? Let's see what would you say if you were me, some rabbi giving a premarital talk?
Then Rabbi Bachman likes to say happy wife will show that.
Happy wife.
Everybody likes to say that.
Okay, that's true. Good, thank you. What else? What else can we get? What other wisdom or lessons can we get here in terms of premarital advice? Yes.
I think you could probably say that wisdom and your wife are similar in the fact that they both allow you to become the best version of yourself.
Okay, yes. In a way, the woman is, and also can allow you to become the worst version of yourself because it can be flipped. Depending on the woman, you can go up or you can go down. Right? Exactly. So on the one hand, yes, the woman, if she's a virtuous, right, woman, she will actually, if you are well connected to her, right, if there is actual connection, intimacy with her, you will go far. The opposite is also true. If she's one of those women who just, I mean, I don't even need to go into the detail. You see it right away. And you are connected intimately with her, she will take you down into the depths of hell, right? So be careful who you marry. I suppose too late for a premarital talk. Be careful who you marry. But definitely, right, the notion of the wife is an asset, right? There's something there that she, in a way, can. But why is she an asset? What is the gift that is given to woman that makes her such an asset? Yes, Epstein? Why is she such an asset? Go ahead.
Well, so like say, find yourself a wise woman, in a way of saying, find a woman who's connected to God as well. And she's an asset because you're going to be in a partnership with that person. And that partnership encompasses everything in your life. So, you know, it's not like, oh, I just married somebody and whatever, but you're going to be with that person. Presumably, you're going to be with that person for a good number of years, and you have to work together for the same goals.
Good. Okay, very good. Anybody want to add? From this text, it seems right that, oh, you want to, no, you just, this text seems to be saying basically there is a gift that is given to a good woman, right? Which is the gift of wisdom. And so as a man, it is to your benefit, right? To open up to this woman's advice, right? This is basically roughly what the text is saying, right? If you are with a God-fearing woman, right? A virtuous woman, not some fool, right? She in a way can function in your life, in a man's life, as the embodiment of wisdom, right? And that it is in a way advantageous for the man to open up to that woman and listen, right? Just like you listen here to the mother and the father, which we have throughout the text, the listening now extends here to the wife. Your capacity to listen to your wife is what is going to help you rise in the world, right? So beautiful, right? Very mother's house, right? This is very powerful moment in terms of what we're seeing here is basically that just like the goddess is the one who gives the authority for the king to reign justly, the wife has this function towards the husband, right? It's basically what the text is saying. The goddess to the king, the wife to the husband, right? The goddess empowers the king to rule justly. The wife likewise can empower her husband to succeed in a way that is powerful, right? There is a power that is given through an interaction with a wise woman, a power that the man wouldn't have on his own. I'll give you some examples. I'll give you two funny examples, two good examples. Before I do the second one, any Trump supporters in the room? Because then I won't give my second example. Yeah, I don't have to give that second example. No, yes, Trump support. You're not gonna say? Okay. You maybe?
Are you kidding me?
Okay, because that's my second example. So, all right, we good? Are you sure I can say this second example? Yes. Okay, good. I don't want to like, make anybody of, unhappy over a stupid example. So first example, Bill Gates. Okay, maybe some of you hate Bill Gates now. Everything is so dangerous nowadays. You cannot say anything from the political realm without, getting beaten up. Okay, y'all know Bill Gates? He's okay? He's not your enemy? Epstein is okay? Okay. Bill Gates he became, of course, a billionaire with Google, right? And that's how he was. He was a powerful man, a billionaire. And what we learned is that it was during a conversation with his wife, which she calls a pillow talk, right? They had a pillow talk. And that's when she shifted him from just being a billionaire to being a humanitarian, right? Now we have a Bill Gates Foundation. It's the wife who had this idea. Now look how manifold his influence, right? How she multiplies his influence. It's just an example, right? Of what a woman can. The man is already powerful, right? He's a multi-billionaire already without the wife. He created this empire of Google himself, but she in a way multiplies his power, right? And brings him into the world scene. This man now is influencing politics. He's, his foundation is funding enormous amount of projects. I think he did a lot for AIDS and so forth, right? So this is just an example. Does that make sense? Okay? Now let's take the opposite and to the point of alienating a bunch of people. Now let's look at Donald Trump. And let's look at his wife, which I've always liked Melania. I have nothing against Melania. But is he listening to his wife? Right? Is there communication between him and his wife? I like to observe couples, right? Very powerful couples, power couples. And what I often see, and people used to come to her and be like, speak to your husband. You need to tell him this and this. This is happening. Please speak for. And she would be like, what do you want? You think he listens to me, right? So there you can sense between the couple a breakdown of communication, which I think had she been able to speak, he's also an incredibly powerful man, right? There's incredible charisma, incredible ability to attract, right? a following. I mean, he is definitely a powerful man in himself. Imagine who he could have become had he been able to open up to the feminine dimension. I mean, I'm looking at him I'm talking to him as I would a friend, right? Now, he had a first wife. I'm just to go into gossip, like let's just he had a first wife, Ivanka Trump, right? Now, that was a powerful woman who was exactly on his level. And sadly, he dumped her because she was becoming too, you see, I read the tabloids all the time. She was becoming too powerful. But imagine if they had stayed together, if he had stayed with this strong, powerful, intelligent woman, imagine where he would be now, right? He's powerful, but he would have been so much more powerful, I believe, had he stayed, no offense, Melania, had he stayed with this powerful first wife. Did she?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
She did.
Yeah.
And he had a second wife as well.
Yeah, he had a few, but she was the one, I think, she was the one she was a powerful woman, right? Ivanka Trump was amazing. And I knew her because I'm a little older than y'all. I remember when he divorced her. Do you remember the picture on Time magazine? That was like, that was sublime. She was there on Time magazine and she was like, basically triumphant because she had found a way to earn millions through this divorce, right? Powerfully intelligent woman, right? Imagine if they had stayed together where he would be. So that's just right. Just to give you, are you seeing what I'm saying? How a woman, if I mean the man, no question, can already be powerful by himself, no question of that. But when he opens up to the woman, this power is multiplied, right? This power is exponentially multiplied, and that's what the text is saying. The king is already powerful, but to the degree that he opens up to the woman, his power becomes multiplied, right?
Okay. He's incapable of listening to anyone.
I know.
But himself.
That's the
No matter what
problem.
it is.
That's the problem. Imagine if, I mean, Donald Trump, to be honest, has a lot of potential. He has a lot of potential. If only he would listen, imagine what he could do. I would tell him that to his face, you know, because, you know, people like him. He's likable. I mean, not to everybody, obviously, but but some people really appreciate, you know, his humor, his directness. So he's a powerful politician. Imagine how much more powerful he would be were he able to open up to the feminine dimension, right? This is just yeah, to give you some examples. Now, yes, good. One last thing to say about wisdom here that's interesting before we go into a case study. What we're learning here, and this is typically biblical and very un-Greek, is that wisdom is relational, right? Wisdom is relational. It's not something that is rational. Like it's not to the degree, for example, Plato, right? When he said it's to the degree that you perceive the ideals, right? That you perceive the good by yourself, by cutting yourself off from the world. If you read the Symposium, that's the movement, right? Diotima is saying we need to rise up and leave behind material and intuit the ideals, right? By yourself. In the Hebrew context, there's no knowledge, no wisdom without relationality. Everything happens through relationships. So we have this, right? It is in the connection that the wisdom emerges. And this is why it is so important to nurture the relationships, because that is the key to success. By the way, in the Jewish tradition, a man is not allowed to become a rabbi until he has a wife. Why? Seems unfair. Maybe now, but traditionally you couldn't, in Talmudic times, no way you could be a rabbi without having a wife. Why? I mean, the guy went through rabbinic school, he knows his stuff. Why he can't be a rabbi without a wife? What's missing? Yeah. Thank you. Right. So he can be, you know, he can be an erudite, he can know a lot, but how will he counsel people without wisdom? Which he can only get, and this is so interesting, he can get knowledge by himself, but he cannot get wisdom by himself. He needs to have certain relationships in his life to acquire wisdom. This is very important. Let me say it again. We can all get knowledge by ourselves, right? It is possible, but knowledge is not enough to guide a community. You need wisdom, and wisdom is only accessible in the rabbinic context through the wife. So this is an echo, right? So the rabbis, in a way, speak to this also, right? This is they are saying pretty much the same thing here. Okay, now what I want to do in the remaining time is take a case study of a wise woman influencing a powerful man. Nope. In the biblical text, please turn to the story of Abigail and David. I'm going to have a moment to shine here with my namesake. So where is it? First of all, I didn't put the reference. Can someone tell me where that story is?
It's gonna make my namesake look good or bad.
Oh, you're David. Okay, yes. No, you're good. Don't worry. Where is this story, please? Somebody give me the reference. Abigail and David.
Samuel.
1 Samuel, oh, 2 Samuel? Okay, 2 Samuel, what? 2 Samuel. Which chapter?
25.
25? 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel 25? Okay. All right, let's go there. Let's read this a little bit. Now we're gonna talk more. 2 Samuel 25?
24.
It goes up to 24.
I don't know what this.
Okay, somebody just Google it. Tell me where it is.
Okay.
What a useless bunch you are, millennials.
Samuel 17.
2 Samuel 17, okay. All right, thank you. Let's see if that's true. Yeah. Is it? I don't see it. How is it so hard? You're on your smartphone all day. You can't pull up. Just put David, Abigail, where is it? Abigail, David and Abigail. Not with the V. Must I? Okay, 1 Samuel 25. 1 Samuel, not 2 Samuel.
Yeah,
1 Samuel 25. Thank you. You were partly right.
Samuel 1:25.
Yes, great. Okay, 25. Here's Nabal. Okay, very good. Okay, let me summarize the story and then we'll zoom in on the encounter. And what I want you to notice in this encounter is the way that she proceeds with wisdom. Now, it's interesting. We've been talking a lot about the men, the need to listen, blah, blah, blah. Good. Now we need to talk to the women, how to talk to the men so the men will listen. Let me say that again, because it's too easy to say, man, listen to the women. And if the woman is not articulate, cannot speak in a way that is, capable of winning her favor, it's not going to work. So the next step now is to turn to the women and be like, okay, you have the wisdom now. Do you know how to speak it? Right? Because there's a way of speaking to the man that either blocks him against you or moves him towards you, right? And this is something that, again, this is something sadly that women have the wisdom. I see it. When I counsel people in relationships, I see the woman has vision. She sees clearly, but she doesn't know how to articulate this vision in a way that sways the man's heart towards her, right? So this is now we're going to learn a little bit. And when we do the Song of Songs, we're going to go even deeper. How the woman is supposed to now transmit this wisdom, right? So let's look at Abigail. Quick summary, give you the context. So King David is not yet king right now. So he was anointed when he was young. And then we know that he lived a short while in the court of the first king of Israel, fell out of grace with the king, fled, and became an outlaw, right? He became an outlaw. He was just fighting with a band of, discontented soldiers. Everybody, all the outliers were flocking to him. So he's basically a nobody right now, even though he was anointed in his youth, right? So he's running around and he's making money like a mercenary by protecting other people's flocks, right? That's his job. Yes. It's like a gang, right? He's basically the head of a gang, the equivalent here, right? So, I mean, he's really nobody. And so he's doing his thing, protecting everyone. And usually what he would do, they would protect for a season and then come and be welcomed. And the owner of the land would offer them a feast. And that's how he fed his men. Normal thing. So he does this to a certain man called Naval, who is an idiot, even according to his wife. And this man, who knows, of course, pure example of bad faith, right? Knows this has been taking place. And when David comes in to get his reward, he's like, who is David? Now, just wait and let's stop there and see how painful just that sentence was. Who is David? Ask yourself, Ask yourself as David, it's not just that he refused them food, it's that sentence. Who is David? Why is that so painful to hear? Who is David? Who is this David? Why is that so painful to hear from David? You have to measure the pain he went through at that moment, why he got so angry. Yeah.
Number one shows that you don't recognize the service that David did for you. Number two, it's like you don't know that he's your king as well.
And especially it rubs in what he himself, right? Who is David is what everyone is asking. Who is David is he himself is asking this question. This is the point of trauma, right? Where he realizes, okay, I was meant to be king, but somehow I failed, right? Who is David? So he touches exactly the point of the most deepest pain in the psyche of David, right? So that's the first thing he does. And then he's like, the hell with you, right? So David obviously flies in a rage and decides he's going to annihilate this man and everybody that lives with him. And then the wife of the man, Abigail, hears about it. Now let's look at how she proceeds. It is brilliant. It is a brilliant act of feminine diplomacy. So let's go there. I'm going to read verse 18. So 25, verse 18. So just the moment of the encounter. So she arrives, right? First of all, she saddles a bunch of donkeys with a bunch of goods, right? And then now she arrives. When Abigail saw David, verse 25, she quickly dismounted. Mark all these details, right? These are all important details. She dismounted from the donkey and threw herself face down before David, bowing to the ground. Prostrate at his feet, she pleaded, let the blame be mine, but let your handmaid speak to you. Okay, let's stop there. What's the first action she does? Now remember, she's wise. She knows who she is. She's not only wise, she's beautiful, but she has to reach him, right? And if we see her even as the embodiment of wisdom, we learn how does wisdom present itself? What does she do? How are we meant to present ourselves as the embodiment of wisdom, as women? What do we learn here? Yeah.
Well, like the first thing I know is that she shows respect.
Number one, respect, right? In other words, respect, I acknowledge, right? So the problem with us women, we come and we show disrespect, right? We're like, I can't stand the way you're acting, you know, and we begin to complain and we begin to nag and how could you do this? And we infantilize the people we talk to, and we kind of like, you know, the way that we speak is very often disrespectful. And so immediately there is a wall, right? The man is not going to listen to your wonderful wisdom. If you go up and say, you know, I'm appalled at how you're acting. This is immature. You're immature, right? And so forth. This is right, respect. Number two, what's the other thing you see here with regards to this woman who functions as the embodiment of wisdom? What's the second thing she does? Still in the same passage. Yes.
When she bows down and prostrates herself, she's imitating the behavior you show to a king.
Okay, very nice.
She's relating to him as
Ooh, nice. We'll come right to that in a second. She's in a way, it's the respect again, right? But this is key. Write this down. She's relating to him as a king, and we're going to look at that even further in the second part.
after being so insulted, he's getting what he craves.
Okay, very good, right? She's acknowledging basically I'll just jump to it. She's in a way prophetically perceiving his true nature. That is the power here. Let's go to the next passage and you will see exactly how she speaks to him. This is what she says. And watch this. This is one of the most, you know, amazing passages. Okay, let's see. Verse, I didn't put the verse. Here it is. Okay. Please pardon, I'm on 28. Let me just read the whole thing. Okay. 25. 26. I swear, my Lord, as the Lord lives, the Lord who has kept you from seeing, redress by blood with your own hands. So now she's saying, this is not like you to murder the innocent, right? Point one. She continues, let your enemies and all who would harm my Lord fare like Nabal. Here's the present. Please pardon your maid's boldness. So still here with the respect. Now she continues. For the Lord, now she's becoming prophetic. In fact, she is considered as one of the prophets in the Talmud, right? The Talmud actually classifies her among the prophets. And this is why. For the Lord will grant my Lord an enduring house, because my Lord is fighting the battles of the Lord. And if anyone sets out to pursue you and seek your life, the life of my Lord will be bound up in the bundle of life in the care of the Lord. And she continues, and then she says, here we are. This is the climax, verse 30. And when the Lord has accomplished for my Lord all the good he has promised you and has appointed you ruler of Israel, do not let this be a cause for stumbling. Okay, she in a visionary way, prophetically reminds him of who he truly is, right? That's the power here, right? But what do we do as women? We tell the man, we highlight the lowest parts of him. You did this, you did that, stop doing this, you're a loser, you're an abuser, you're a narcissist, right? And we're not, and there's nobody listening to us, right? What the key here, the power, the power that she is exercising is the prophetic ability to see the true self of the man. She is able to see through the mistakes and the stumblings and the inadequacies and the weaknesses of the man. She sees through deeper into who he could be, who he truly is, who he was meant to be, and she speaks it out. At that moment, that man will do anything she then this is the moment where the man is ready to listen, right? She opens the way for herself in this way at that moment, and she reminds him, this is who you are. This is not you. She's not telling him anything new, right? She's not saying, here I am, the goddess of wisdom, let me show you the way. She's saying, you know the way, be yourself. That's the power here, right? This is kind of like Socrates, right? Back to Plato. I'm really inspired by Plato today, right? When Socrates says, I don't teach wisdom, I birth it, right? Through dialogue. This is exactly what she's doing. She doesn't teach greatness. She doesn't prescribe to him what he should do to be great. She says, here's the greatness here already. Just be who you are. That is how we speak in a way that is wise. It's not about being, right, the kind of, coming to the man like the angel of salvation, or, here I am, I know everything and you know nothing. It's about prophetically, it's about vision. It's about prophetically being able to see who the man was meant to be and to bring it out. That is the sole task of the wife, right? That is the task of wisdom, right? And that is the task that Abigail is doing very profoundly. There's one last little thing she does towards the end, is a very small detail, which I almost overlooked. She says, when the Lord has brought my master success, remember your servant. Let's talk about that. What's she doing there? How is that a very powerful moment also? Remember your servant. Yes.
It's similar to how Jacob was asking, was trying to appease Esau. He kept on saying, he kept on instructing his servants that he was sending ahead of him, tell them that he was sent, that you've been sent by Jacob, your servant. So,
Okay.
You lower yourself by that you are the servant of the person you're trying to appease.
I love that, because very often when we want to speak wisdom, we come from a position of superiority. Wisdom never comes from a position of superiority. Wisdom always comes from a position of humility, right? That was one of the first things I wanted to say. In other words, wisdom doesn't come to conquer or to manipulate or to debate, right? But comes in a way with humility. Like, let me learn from you. Let me just be open to you, right? So there's something also to be learned, right? You're dealing with wisdom when the person in front of you is humble. If there's no humility, it's not wisdom, right? Wisdom is in a way, the traits of wisdom are humility. The proof that you're dealing with wisdom is the ability for that person to be the servant, the one who serves, right? Rather than the one who tries to manipulate or coerce or win the argument and so forth, right? Good. Anything else about this? Remember your servant, beyond what you said. There's still another way to see it. Yeah.
I think she's kind of trying to imply that she wants to be part of his life in a more meaningful way.
Yes, right. See, this is the ability for her to be vulnerable, right? This is also a very important, right? It's as the woman is trying to reach the man, right? It doesn't help to come, as a kind of savior, right? Or mother figure. It helps to come as a vulnerable person who longs for this to happen, right? There is a longing in her, there is a need, there is a vulnerability. We too often as women have learned to be, you know, to kind of not need anybody, right? Like we don't need, I don't need you, I can just be by myself, right? This vulnerability, this ability to say, I need you, I long for you, is also a very powerful moment into a very powerful path, right? Into a key into the man's heart, right? Which is also something that we very much forget. So beautiful case study, right? As you see that, and notice King David. What does he do? So we talked about King David last time. What makes him amazing at that moment? Yes,
He thanks God for having sent her to.
exactly. He listens, right? Which shows you again that King David was legit. He was a true king. Again, we talked about this last time, right? King David is the epitome of kingship because of his ability to listen to this woman, to Prophet Nathan, to his wife Bathsheba later, right? So that's what makes him, right, the epitome of the royal family in Israel, in ancient Israel. Okay, good. So next time, yes.
She's the only woman in the Bible who is described first as intelligent and beautiful.
Mhm.
And
I like
she's
that.
the only one who is actually described as intelligent.
That's true. That's true. There's and right. Yes, you're right. That's interesting. First intelligent, then beautiful, right? Nice, very nice. Okay, good. Ecclesiastes is coming up. Please, I'll just introduce him next time, and then we'll start reading the days to come. Thank you.